I'm Zoe Delahunty-Light and I love everything vampire and goth and arcane. However, Redfall is not it. I've spent a lot of time with the game in advance of this review and so far, I am not impressed. Redfall had a lot of potential, but it just hasn't lived up to expectations, which is a pity as it comes from my personal golden child Arcane of Dishonored and Deathloop fame. So here's all the reasons Redfall is a massive letdown. I was expecting a lot from the vampires in Redfall as they are the crux of the entire game. So imagine my surprise when I found that ordinary vampires, the type you've seen in the trailers, are not hard to take down at all. And I'm talking level 1 and 2 past me taking on a vampire. I was playing single player and only had low level weapons, and after whittling off most of their health at a distance, as you can spot vampires from far away, I mean they're floating in the streets for God's sake, it was easy to stake them and get rid of them for good. There's a small time window in which you need to stake vampires to kill them, as damage alone won't do it. Even when backed up by human cultists, the common vampires did not come across as tanks. Furthermore, all of the attacks belonging to basic vampires are melee, so what that means is they have to get close to you to deal damage, which means that when the time comes to stake them, it's easy as they're already within a couple of feet of you at most. It's not even as if there are enough goons to distract me from taking out the vampire, as the AI is dumb as hell, and I will be bringing that up soon. I found that basic vampires in Redfall work better when you run into pairs of them, and part of me wishes it was the default setting, as it does make vampires more of a challenge. Perhaps the lore could be that Redfall vampires are bonded in a pair, like brother and sister, husband and wife, or best friends, and you have to kill 2 of them in order to get rid of the vampire threat in that area. See, Arcane, it's not hard, just make them hunt in pairs. Denizens of the night they may be, but they're not as stealthy as you'd anticipate. Vampires all talk to themselves, so if you're not alerted by the sounds of them teleporting, you can hear them when they're nearby, meaning, more often than not, they can't get the drop on you. It is cool how they perch on roofs like gargoyles though, I will give them that. Vampire underbosses for each region of Redfall are more demanding. Anglers pull you close to slash at you, and siphons have a very irritating life drain power which you can only escape by breaking line of sight. For some godforsaken reason, one of the underbosses has a boss fight in a tiny basement, and as they're a siphon vampire, it's nigh on impossible to break line of sight, meaning I was downing med packs in between frantic bursts of gunfire and getting incredibly annoyed. This was hugely infuriating as the atmosphere before my run-in with the siphon vampire had been top-notch for once. Exploring the house it was hiding in, you were shown how this powerful vampire used to be a taxidermist who got a little too into the posing dead creatures thing. And, or you say it, vampire weapons like the stake launcher and UV light were pretty crap against the boss. They petrified it once, temporarily encasing it in a cocoon of stone. However, petrifying wasn't explained to me at all at this point, despite the fact that I was about 8 hours into my time with Redfall. Neither was the red death mist sprawling across Redfall's streets. I don't know why. Redfall's missions are bare bones. You go somewhere, find something, return to base. No NPCs greet you during your exploration, with 90% of them either being holed up at your fire station base or in the safe houses scattered throughout Redfall. Even when you try to talk to them, they just kind of hum at you. It's quite weird. Only enemies roam the streets, making Redfall feel devoid of life, and despite the vampires loitering around the place, that is not a good thing. You can unlock safe houses to secure neighborhoods against the vampire threat, but nothing actually seems to change in the streets once you do so. It's not like in Far Cry 5, where outposts usually filled with enemies are then replaced with a mini thriving community. bar having more NPCs in the safe houses themselves after securing the neighbourhood, there is no difference from before. To be honest, safe houses don't add much to Redfall. You can fast travel to them, but that's the only real use they have. Don't get me wrong, Redfall can still be fun sometimes. It has Arcane's incredible character design, the enemies look cool, especially bloodbags, but it just doesn't have the soul of other Arcane games. Considering it's Arcane, it's a shame that the story isn't really there, although it's sure trying to be. Monologues from the mysterious originator of Redfall's vampires are attached to collectibles, but you need to hunt them down yourself. Redfall's environmental storytelling is good, but doesn't make up for a lack of engaging narrative. Its world feels empty, as there's not a lot of enemies patrolling the streets, even your bog-standard squishy goons. The town of Redfall does have its own run-down, touristy, coastal personality, but it's not as stylized or cohesive as other Arcane environments, like Prey's Space Station, Deathloop, or Dishonored. With a little more time and attention, it could have been so much better, as there's definitely the inklings of a fantastic idea in Redfall. Also, not in the least because, oh my god, there are so many bugs. I had textures that took ages to load, floating objects, glitching vampires, my medkit count breaking, and more. The AI is jank in Redfall. I saw goons running through fires I started right in front of them, after seeing their friends die in the flames, a vampire teleporting around and not attacking me almost as if its pathfinding was balked, vampires running to the edge of roofs and not reacting when I shot them, goons not investigating when they see their friend's head explode next to them, dead bodies not causing any alarm when found. The AI is real bad, and that's all I have to say about that. Finally, Redfall's gunplay is mid. I was playing on Xbox Series X and there's this dead zone around my thumbsticks that really annoys me. It's not nearly as precise as it should be for a shooter. Granted, each character's powers are quite fun to play around with, especially Layla's elevator, which acts like a nerfed version of Dishonored's Blinked. You can get into these fiddly places and snipe from there, which is kind of more fitting to the Deadeye stealth character, but I'll give that a pass for now. Even when Aoife played Jacob, the stealth character, she said that the bird power he has, which is meant to scout out enemies for you, is pretty useless as it just goes in a straight line, and you can already see in a straight line, so what the hell is the use of that? The bird needs to be more like Cassandra's Icaros from Assassin's Creed Odyssey, if you ask me. Anyway, there is a downside to Layla's elevator, and that's that it too often gets stuck on things, making it appear in mid-air, and will appear on windowsills instead of the ground if you're on a lower roof trying to get up to the very top of a house. When I was playing Redfall in multiplayer with Ian and Aoife, the game also had the audacity to chug when all three of us were in a simultaneous gunfight. And there was no increase in enemies despite the three of us running across the map, so every fight was a cakewalk. And let's all remember here, Redfall is a multiplayer game, allegedly. All in all, I'd honestly recommend not only playing Redfall in single player if you want a challenge, but also increasing the difficulty because right now, good god it's easy. Powering Layla's main ability is something called Psychic Residue, which she uses to summon her vampiric ex-boyfriend to temporarily fight alongside her. At no point was I told this. You don't get told anything about Psychic Residue or how to find it, and it was only gradually that I found out that killing enemies gets you Psychic Residue, and when you pair that with the lack of enemies in Redfall streets, you can imagine just how long it took me to summon Layla's ex. Oh, and one more thing. You get most of your loot from the boots of cars, which sometimes have car alarms. That's cool, however, no special skill or minigame is linked to hacking into car alarms or picking the locks of car boots. Instead, you buy hacking kits and lockpicks, and are limited to having 3 in your inventory. A bit of a cop-out if you ask me. And there you go. Those are the reasons Redfall is a massive letdown. If you've played Redfall, what's your experience with it like so far? As you might have gathered from this video, I'm not particularly enamoured of it, but hey, maybe a future patch will make it playable, if not better. It might go the way of Final Fantasy XIV and take into account feedback and be some kind of miracle resurrection. Who knows? If you've made it this far, thanks so much for watching, and make sure you subscribe to Eurogamer and like this video for more videos from yours truly, as we have a new video out almost every single day. Now, I'm going to go and try to unlock more outfits and heads for Layla, so I will see you lot next time.